The lecture was conceived, it was developed almost 20 years ago. So I'm still giving this lecture. I just don't know how relevant this is, but this is a very popular lecture, particularly to policymakers. Now, how do you position the arts, the humanities, in the overall context of development? Development is such a big word, no? So all of you should understand that every time you do your field, your discipline, you will graduate here in De La Salle, you will realize, puro kabig ba yan papasok, o when will I give something back to my community or to my society? That's the bigger picture. And at the end of the day, you'll realize this is the look of the society that you will be working with. First slide. This is poverty. When you talk of development, poverty will look at you straight into the eye. And if your field is literature, fine arts, architecture, heritage, how do you explain that to this kid? You know, that's the exact question that was given to me when we were defending the budget of the national cultural agencies, National Museum, National Historical, National Archives. How do we justify your budget in the whole context of development? How will you explain to these kids that the rice terraces is the seventh wonder of the world? Ano? Diba? You know, these kids, what they would like is just to survive. Their dream is just to go to school. Literally, they go to school by, next slide. Literally, ang mga bata, tutulayan sa alambre just to go to school. Literally. It's true. They have to cross seas and rivers. They have to climb mountains. And at night, they will burn the night oil. Literal yun. You thought it's an expression in literature? That's a reality check. No? Remember, you were foregrounded by this lecture earlier, galing kay Dr. Shirley. You are in a very comfortable, confined zone. La Salle is too comfortable. No? That's not the reality. That's your reality. When you go out, straightforward yan ang reality. No? Now, how will you position yourselves in this kind of global context? This is always in flux. And if people ask you, particularly the national agencies, how will you justify that budget that you're asking for culture and heritage in the overall context of development? So, with this, tatanungin nila ha, straightforward. When you defend your budget, heritage ano yan? Makakain ba yan? You know, when the first time they asked me that in the Senate, gusto kong patayin lahat ng senador. Hindi, for one thing, paano naman kayo nakarating just pagiging senador nyo? You don't even understand culture and heritage. You don't even know how to, of course, you're coming from your lens. You know, that's your interest. But, you know, the first thing was, I was so angry at all these policymakers and senators. But at the end of the day, I realized, magalit ka sa sarili mo. You know why? You shortchanged them. You should have done your job explaining it well to the students, explaining it well to the policymakers. Because they're just asking you, how do you connect to society? Diba? Have you done your lectures well? They wouldn't have asked that. Have you done your projects well? They wouldn't have asked that. No? So, those are things that you have to consider. When you do your jobs well, you just do it so well, people will notice that. They will not ask you what's your significance or relevance in the overall context of development. So, because of this, pag tatanungin ka, next slide, heritage, makakain ba yan? You will not be able to answer that in one click. Defining heritage alone, it's so difficult. It looks easy, but mamaya makikita nyo, nagno-nosebleed na kayo sa ilong, hindi nyo pa mako-configure what's really heritage. No? And if you put heritage against other disciplines, against the discipline of science, against the discipline of development, against the discipline of poverty, against the discipline of tourism, it will take on a new context, a new configuration. So that makes things very difficult. No? So, Next slide. This is really the tension created by heritage if you pit it against development. This tension is a tension between the past and progress, no? The toss-up between history versus economy, the soul versus the stomach. So this is typical. You see historic districts, you see old cities being bulldozed to give way, no, to subdivisions, to give way to high-rise buildings, to give way to parking lots, to give way to hypermart, to mega malls. Lahat yan. That's a reality. Before, I remember every time we went to Tagaytay, early morning, you see all these beautiful rice fields, all the fog, all the sunflowers. When you reach the ridge, wow, beautiful, the volcano is right there in front of you, and the sunrise is coming up, and you can smell the fresh air, aliwa, everything. Now you go to Tagaytay, when you reach the ridge, asan ang bulkan? You see all these Ferris wheel na ang laki-laki, tapos Starbucks 1, Starbucks 2, Starbucks 3. Tapos, balay nga dako, andito na siya. All of those line up. You barely see the volcano. And you have to pay to view the volcano. Diba? So, things have changed. No? So, there's progress, but at the same time, you lose a lot of your past. These are two opposite concepts. Now, you also have the economist history. And you even have the concept of the soul versus the stomach. Next slide. It looks like this kind of diagram. When you talk of heritage, parang, bilog siya. And you also have development, and development has a lot of big words, no? So, globalization, westernization, modernization, urbanization, it's all there. Now, when you talk of globalization, the classic example is, you know this big M, the one beside De La Salle? O ano yan? O, McDonald's. Okay. When you say McDonald's, kunyari, I'll ask Doc Shirley, Doc Shirley, why don't you go to McDonald's? Have your picture taken with that big M and Ronald McDonald at ikaw lang. So you have the big M, you have Ronald McDonald and Doc Shirley. She'll show it in upload kay Kaloy, Doc Kaloy. Oh, Doc Kaloy, may M, ako, Ronald McDonald. Will you be able to identify the place kung saang McDonald's yon? Tatlong elements lang ha ang nandun sa frame. M, Ronald McDonald, Doc Shirley. Will you be able to identify it? No. You move again to another site. So, there you have the M, Doc Shirley, Ronald McDonald. The same. In upload, ma-identify nyo? No. These are global concepts. Globalization is really cutting across borders, and it's just this image that recurs. No? Now, what happens here, it will not tell you your sense of place. No? The same. Kunyari, si Kaloy may salamin, may check. Then, si ma'am meron siyang water bottle, may check. Yung cellphone niya, may check. Ano yung check na yan? It's Nike. Tanungin mo, saan ang Nike galing? Where is Nike? So, ang kay Kaloy is US. Ito sa kanya 168. Ito sa kanya ay Vietnam. That's it. No? When you say globalization, the modes of production have been totally cut up. Maybe the concept is from the Philippines, then the production is Malaysia, then the designer is ganito. So it's all cut up. That's globalization. It will not tell you its sense of place. It's a global phenomenon. Now, I'll give you another example. I will ask Doc Shirley, okay, go somewhere. Magpapakita siya ha. Her picture and then the rice terraces. Asan si Doc Shirley? Banawe. She went down to this historic town, andun yung Cross ni Magellan, nakareha si Doc Shirley kasi lagi naman sarado yon, 'di ba? At sabi niya, in-upload. Saan yung Cross ni Magellan? Cebu. Then she went to this old town with all these old houses with one street and the Caritela. Vegan. Bumaba siya ngayon doon sa monumento ni Rizal at may 4 na sundalo and merong photobomber sa likod. Nagpakuha siyang pag-ganon. Hindi niya alam may photobomber doon sa likod. Saan siya? Luneta. These are iconic places. I-upload mo lang, alam mo kung saan. Diba? It will tell you your sense of place. And it will even tell you the people living in that place. So it's a sense of place and a sense of identity. They're not global, they're local. That other one was globalization. This other one is localization. Diba? Go back to your hometowns. Hindi nyo napansin? Whenever you go back to your hometown, you will expect certain icons. Pagliko, malapit na yung bahay. Kakain na ako ng tinola. Pagbaba mo sa sa gate, ayan na! Excited na kayo. Then you can almost smell the cooking. You know your favorite bed. You know your favorite pillow. You know where to put everything. That's home. That's sense of place. That's your identity. Hindi nyo napapansin, when you go abroad, come back to Manila, naiya. Why is it that OFWs, pag naglaland ang plane, nagpapalakpakan? Tayo lang may ganun. Because they know their home. Diba? Kahit na gaano kainit ang airport, gaano ka-inconvenient ang airport, kahit na gaano kabwisit ang mga tao sa airport. That's home. Tayo yun eh. That's us. That sense of place, that sense of culture. So, you have this one. Heritage, development. But this will always clash. Ang paradigm natin ngayon, it's always this one concept versus development. Now, next slide. Because of new developments, globalization, urbanization, westernization, the concept of heritage has really evolved. Iba-ibang klase na ang heritage. You have a heritage, what we call contested heritage. Torre de Manila is a contested heritage. Some people said, hindi pwede yan dyan, it's a photobomber. But the others said, pwede naman, nasa labas naman siyang boundary. Now we have another issue today, like we have the bridge of Binondo in Intramuros. They said, it really destroys the boundaries of this heritage site. The others said, no, it will help improve the traffic, and decongest the traffic. So, if things have different voices, if things have various perspectives, magbubungguan yan. Next is heritage of shame. You'll notice there are some heritages that you wouldn't like to talk about. Comfort women. Naglagay na status sa Ross Boulevard, the next day binaba. Diba? Like the slave routes of Africa. They wouldn't like to talk about that. Even the concentration camps in Auschwitz-Birkenau or even the ones in Poland, they wouldn't like to talk about that. Those are heritage of shame. No? So massacre sites, dark sites, these are heritage of shame. You also have heritage of the margins. So ayan na. When you ride your jeep, may sasakay biglang badyaw. Di ba, pag nasa jeep kayo, parang wala lang sila. Kung saan kayo tumitingin. No? But you know they're there. And you know they're badyaws. No? Every December, the Igorots would come down, the Aitas would come down. So these are heritage of the margins. Those are the marginalized ones. You also have critical heritage. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is a new movement. Formerly, when you talk of heritage, it's all these sciences. Yung ilagay mo dyan, linisin ang painting ng Johnson's Bads. 2 years na, hindi pa rin nakakaalis doon. 1 square meter ang painting, sobrang laki. Hindi lumalabas doon, Johnson, kasi ang liit-liit ang tuktok. No? You do chemistry, you have to study art history, you have to study physics, you have to study just to clean the painting. Science yon, that's pure science. Paayos mo ang truss ng simbahan, paayos mo yung wood part ng bahay nyo. You have to understand exactly what type of wood, the pores, the origin of the wood. So that's pure science. But critical heritage is, how will you position heritage in the context of poverty, tourism, migration, terrorism? Iba yan. Heritage before was the subject. Then the object were all these pure sciences. Heritage now, this is critical heritage. Heritage becomes the object. The subject will now be the bigger context and understanding of development processes. Phantasmal heritage. Pati heritage ng mga multo, merong ganyan. So, nagpaparamdam po doon, ay heritage yan, document natin yung multo. No? Jack the Ripper, that's a heritage story. You have all this, ang babae sa Balete Drive, yung white lady, that's heritage. No? Lahat na nagpaparamdam sa Malcolm Hall sa UP. Dito sa Lasal, doon sa LS, meron yan dyan. Panahon ko. Meron yan lagi dyan. So, that's fantastic heritage. Pendular heritage. All of you have relatives, OFWs. They come and go. Diba? When they leave, they bring something with them. No? Meron niyang dalang mga stampita galing sa nanay nila. Meron niyang dalang tuyo. Meron niyang bagoong na nakagrapon. No? The Ilocanos would bring, may dalayang bala ang mga Ilocano. Kaya may laglag bala eh. No? Because that's part of their culture. They should have understood exactly ang laglag bala concept. It has cultural base. May heritage base yun. No? So, that's one. But when they return, OFW, anong dala-dala nila? Ayan na, meron ng dial soap, meron ng Jergens, meron ng tuwalya na galing sa Walmart, yung sale na Nike, lahat ng size, at meron pa yung naka-cut up na paa. Eksakto yan, size 7. Di ba yung kinat up, nakapasok pa dun sa sapatos at naka-plastic with masking tape. At nakalagay doon, to Tito Boy, Ate Baby. Ay, ibang klase talaga. We're the only ones doing that. That's so Pinoy. No? So, you realize, this is pendular heritage. You back and forth, at nag-evolve din. Dati toyo, ngayon Goldilocks na. Tsaka Krispy Kreme. Si Krispy Kreme na super tamis. Dadalhin pa rin yan. May Krispy Kreme naman sa Amerika, dala niya pa rin Krispy Kreme papuntang Amerika. So, this is pendular heritage. So, heritage of the everyday, you have heritage of the invisible, you have shared heritage. There are many types of heritage now. No? So, it takes a lot of new researches just to establish all these new concepts and these new phenomena related to heritage. Next slide. Heritage versus development. We'll define development later. Pero ito ang mga contested heritage kasi nagbubungguan ang heritage and development. Early 2000, there used to be that building along Taft Avenue. That's the High Alay building. That's very iconic. Alam nyo, before, pag bababa kayo ng Luneta, hindi sinasabi, Mama, para Luneta. We used to say, para High Alay. Kasi ang iconic building was this building, High Alay. So what happened, it got condemned and the Department of Justice owned the whole building. Sabi nila, pabuldos na yan. We will come up with a huge one-stop shop justice system. And they said it's 800 million worth at that time. And then the other side said, academe, conservationist, they said, ay, wag niyo sirain yan. Why? The style of this building is very rare. It's called streamline deco. No, it looks like a ship with a drum in the middle. It's the biggest example of streamline deco structure in the whole of Asia. So that's very valuable to architects, urban planners, and everybody. Eh, what happened was, hindi, umuwi na muna kayo, kakarally nyo, Sir Eric, uwi na muna kayo. We left. When we returned, nawawala ang building natin. Nabuldos. 1 week lang kami nawala, nabuldos na yung building. Ang bilis nyo namang magbuldos. Gone. Di, wala na kami mapagralihan. That was the origin of that organization we call now Heritage Conservation Society. Doon nagsimula. Mukha kaming tanga. May placard, nawawala ho ang building natin. Uwi-uwi, nakakaya dito. Nakakaya. Sakay na ng jeep. So, you know, all these crazy things that we had to do for our advocacy before. No, akala namin we will die for heritage. Ay, hindi na kami mamamatay ngayon. Bahala na kayo dyan. Now, what's so ironic, it got bulldozed. Ang tumayo doon, puro Aratilis trees. Know why? The president that instructed the DPWs to bulldoze the whole site, he got ejected, na-impeached. So gone was the building, gone was the budget, gone was the 800 million, wala. It became a wasteland. By 2014, something happened again exactly on that site. Torre de Manila naman ngayon. Ano ba naman talaga? Wala na nga tumayo. Mali naman ang tumayo. Condominium na dapat 7 stories, naging 49 stories. And they still couldn't identify. Ano what happened along the way? Ano what happened along the way? Diba? So, these are things, 20s, this is how you valued your whole site. It was very, very well glorified. It was very pristine. You have a very high meaning with regards to your heroes. By 2014, sige, pwede namang, ano naman yung background na yan. That's very, very disposable. That's very it can be interpreted differently. So, those are contested issues or contested episodes, no, in our heritage. Next slide. This is heritage development, object-related issues. 2002, there was this painting, wala pa kayo niyan, Parisian Life, no? Nawala, nag-animation siya. Recently, there was this Polarium, I studied the boceto. It was heavily questioned. It came out in an auction if it's really a true boceto. And even the Katipunan letters, it was questioned. Why do we have to auction off objects of national significance of our patrimony? Why do you have to auction that? Why can't the government run after it? So this is very economics. This is very commerce. No, but the other one, it really upholds that sense of pride and sense of patrimony to your country. Next slide. Okay, next. Heritage development, intangible heritage. So intangible, this related to indigenous communities, related to traditions. Remember this incident, natulog si Wang Od. Wang Od flew, she was flown, no? From Kalinga down here, and she was introduced to the Saitem show. But right in the middle, I think she was so tired. So there was this big issue of how you interpret all these intangible heritages. Do you really have to expose them to all these rigors of, commercialization? Even this recent incident about, the traditional textile patterns being used in Christian Louboutin bags, no? So, na-raise siyang issue na yan. No, did they ask for copyright? Did they ask for, was the intellectual property properly recorded and covered? So, these are things that really that are being raised, no, with regards to the protection and preservation of the heritage. Next slide. Ito ang maganda. So, church-related issues. We always have this. 95% of our heritage is really church-related. So, 2016, Kalumpit Church, it became a Goldilocks shop. Naging mukhang cake ang buong simbahan. It's an old church, ginawang pink and white. Centro Escolar University ang inspiration niya. Paano naman naging cake yan? Ang pare, siguro gusto niya medyo stylish siya. Yung mga outline puti, yung katawan pink. Ayan, hindi pa niya natapos. Diba? So, the other one was the San Joaquin Cemetery Treasure Hunt. This is a national treasure cemetery, one of the most breathtaking cemeteries in the whole country. So, it has this sloping part, all bricks. Lo and behold, in the middle of the night, parang merong karnabal lagi dun sa cemetery. People were wondering, ano kaya meron dyan? Little did they know, after a few months, 20-story deep na dug out na at papasok mag-turn left, they were treasure hunting. And the parish priest was the one initiating the whole effort. Sabi ko, padre naman. So, he was not caught. But obviously, he didn't find anything. No? And we realized that was not even his first time. He did this. This is the third time that he did something like this. Not in any cemetery, but other churches. Now, this is the Lawag Church ceiling, the truss system. One Sunday, when the priest said, the mass is ended, let's go in peace. Naku, may nahulog, isang piraso. May anay. Everybody went haywire and they said, oh my gosh, babagsak na yung kisame talaga. Alam mo naman yung chismis, di ba? Nag-amplify, nagra-ramify. Out of proportion na siya. Palitan ang buong kisame. You know, this is one of the few ceilings where you have this modihar technology. 500 logs uncut. Unang-una, when you see an old church, may poste ba sa gitna? Wala. You should have thought altogether, paano nila inakyat ang 500 logs dyan? Ano yun? Yung kalabaw may pakpak? Because according to documents and archives, it took 5,000 carabaos to move all logs from Nueva Ecija up to Calasiao, Pangasinan. This is in Lawag. So how many carabaos ang mag-move ng ganyang kadaming logs? Kayo ba gusto nyo maging kalabaw sa panahon ng Kastila? Hindi nyo kaya yan. I-compare nyo yung konteksto nyo ngayon. Ayoko maging kalabaw ng Spanish period. Mag-move ako ng ganyang kadami. So, the technology alone, the material alone, the logs alone, hindi na yan pwede. So this in itself is very, very significant in terms of construction technology, in terms of material, then suddenly, palitan lahat yan, gawing A-frame yan na bakal. See? Yung hindi nagawa ng nature for 500 years, in one click ng tao, magagawa niya yun. Then you have the Save the Patria de Cebu. So this is a recent incident whereby the Archdiocese decided, luma na yung building, tanggalin na yan siya. But of course, for the Cebuanos, many of the students, many of the Catholic schools contributed to put up this hostel for the everyday people. No? So these were early years. Next slide. Now, this is, next, road development. Naku, typical din ito with DPWH. So, you have an archaeological site here in Cagayan de Oro. Now, they would like to connect a remote barangay on the opposite side by a road. But they will be hitting an archaeological site. Binuldos ang buong archaeological site. To the point, every time people now would pass through this bridge, they would stop and you can get blue and white plates. You can get old beads, even bones, even shards. The whole history of Cagayan de Oro lied here. Dito siya nakasalalay. So how can you put together a very comprehensive history and a materially evidenced history of Cagayan de Oro when half of the whole mountain is gone? Diba? Sino sisisihin mo dyan? Yung backhoe operator na naman. Nung makasakit ng mamasapa, no, siya lang nasisi, tapos siya na naman sisisihin dito. So, those are really convenient excuses. Now, this is typical. Your historic houses, your historic districts are all, talagang the moment the DPWH comes in, if they don't have the proper instruction, all of those will be threatened. Example, this is Karkar in Cebu, the most beautiful rotonda in the whole country. Now, it's so congested because, of course, of the traffic. Gusto nila expand ang kalye. How many old houses will be bulldozed? So, nag-rally, nag-stop. You also have here, Bohol. They would like to decongest Tagbilaran, so they would like to expand the roads of Bohol. Matatamaan na naman yung bahay dyan. Even this one in Silay. Silay really barricaded their main roads for DPWH na to enter. Now, the recent news is Huban in Sorsogon. 4 beautiful churches, houses along the highway were so much threatened that people are now rallying that not to expand that segment of the town's highway. Next slide. Bridges. Ito na naman, bridge-related. Tayabas, they have like 12 Spanish colonial bridges. Beautiful. Awa ng Diyos, kinongkreto ng DPWH. Bricks yan eh. You know this technology, no, for the bricks with the yung keystone. That is a work of a genius because you really have to make sure that the tension is enough to carry the whole weight. Hindi. Sementohin mo na lang yan. Semento. No? So the same, even in Bohol, they have like 20 little bridges, no? Footpaths that's arched. No, connecting all these little canals, these little creeks. Hindi na alam ng DPWH. Sinemento nila lahat. So, Bohol said, we have beautiful national treasure bridges here. Here, hindi ito. Nawawala ang bridge. Pagsilip, nakasimento na yung bridge. So, you don't understand, no? Parang there's this disjointed communication. lack of communication between the different agencies. Now, this is one of the biggest news now. So they're putting up this Chinese bridge that would connect Binondo to Intramuros. And they said, no, we're stopping the bridge because there are many people, there are many dissenting opinion. Oo, nagsastop nga. Ganyan kadami ang nagtatrabaho doon. So, tuloy si bridge. No? So, these are things that, well, there's really a lot of communication, a lot of planning, a lot of, compromise, negotiation that you have to work through just to push forward heritage. And if you cannot justify that in the overall development process, then that's quite sad. No? Next slide. Let's go to development. For those who are taking economics here, you have more or less an idea of how development theories evolved. Now, 50s to 60s, after the war, everything was so ravaged. For them, bombahan mo na lang na kapital yan. Balik ka na naman sa development. So it had to be stages. So you have the Rostow's model na meron kang traditional society, you have the take-off, you have the maturity. It has to be in stages. By the 60s and 70s, things change. They were able to identify already sectors. No. Not just labor, not just capital. There are other things that you have to consider in development. Agriculture, industry, service, international trade. By the time it reached the 70s and the 80s, it's either, you have to strengthen your international trade or it has to be a very strong government. Kaya lumabas nga si Marcos, di ba? This is a very authorized push for the economy. Or you go for internationalization, kaya lang, very dependent ka sa mga superpowers. Yan ang configuration 70s and 80s. But look at the 80s and the 90s. The development concept of the 80s and 90s focuses on capability approach. Your development depends a lot on the knowledge of the people, information, technology, party coordination. Ito nakakatawa eh. Development now is very often lack of coordination. That's the overriding theory for development, is lack of coordination theory. You have all the elements, they're not talking to each other. Which is true. Diba? So, punta ka lang sa City Hall, papasa yung papel doon. Ma'am, kayo na ho magbigay. Hindi, ikaw na ho magbigay, lagay mo doon. So, all of this, you realize, it looks like it follows the trend. It's not just in the Philippines, but over the world. Next slide. Now, if you look at this action-reaction model, so linear from the 50s to the 60s, structural, 60s to the 70s, open, 70s to 80s, 90s, capabilities na siya. That's why the thrust of development before, it was pure economics. No? Paramihan tayo ng pera. The rich become richer, the poor becomes poorer. Then they question, nagiging rich tayo, wala namang quality of life. No? So, sometimes you have a very good education, you still have a very good infrastructure, but there's still a big portion of society that's way below the poverty line. Then you also have, after nyan, they questioned already, many countries are getting rich, but at the same time, the whole environment is ubos. Yung pala nabuldos na lahat ng mga puno, that's why this concept of sustainable development emerged. No? So that's around the 80s and the 90s. Next slide. Basically, when you talk of development, it's very economics again. You have to know what you have. What are your resources? These are your resources. These are your physical resources. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, technology. Now, the purpose of development, if you have that economic model, make sure that one or a combination of these will redound to an economic value. Something that could be peso, euro, dollar. It has to move there. Yan ang value niya. No? Next slide. But by 1982, many small countries said, excuse me, we don't think that's the proper definition for development because development is a very complex, comprehensive, multidimensional process. It's both a product and a process. You can reach a point where you have development, or development is a process from point A to point B. No, you must be able to compare your situation from point A to point B. And all dimensions of life should be there. If you contribute, you also benefit from that. Next slide. Ito, development ba to? Okay. May nakita ako mga dugyot dyan sa tapat ng Lasal. Hoy, sabi ni Sir Eric, mayroong opening dyan. You have to wear coat and tie and tails. May red wine session tayo. Dadamitan ko kayo. Dinamitan ko sila. At pinatong ko yung mga ulo nila. No? And you realize, is this development? Actually, ito yung gusto kong sabihin sa inyo. Madaling tanggalin ang tao sa kanto. Pero matagal tanggalin ang kanto sa tao. Sino nagsabi? According to me. Kasi hindi ko maalala sino nagsabi niya. When you talk of development, it's a value transformation that never happens overnight. Nung pinanganak kayo, hindi kayo develop. That's why you're studying. It's really something that's close to the bone. Kalamdan nyo yan. No? So, even for this one, bigyan mo ng damit yan, the next day babalik yan. Bigyan mo ng housing yan. Have you been to San Andres Bukid? Oh, you live there. Oo. You know that corner sa may Osmeña? O, di ba? When those set of tenement houses were put up, ay, ang gaganda. Beautiful. Pumunta ka dun ngayon. Ay, nakakatakot. So, bigyan mo ng housing yan, it will transform. Bigyan mo ng damit yan, mawawala yan. Bigyan mo ng pagkain yan, hindi matatapos yan. No? Unless you change. No? This is a value transformation. Next slide. Next. Ay, sorry. Okay. When you talk development, the easiest way for economists are do the expenditure approach. Just compute the poverty line. How many people are way below the poverty line? It's the poorest of the poor. So yun ang tatargetin mo. But that has become obsolete. For many people, poverty now is really capabilities approach. No? So, what resources do you provide these people so that they themselves will be able to transform? Example, pupil, school. Wala na iba. Pupil, school. Anong tendency ng bata? Pupil, school. Magbubulak-bul ba siya o pupunta siya dun sa school? Pupil, school. School. Magiging curious yan. Pupunta yan ng school. Pupil, no school. Magsuschool siya? Hindi magsuschool. Wala nga school eh. Diba? Next, farmer, banana, market. Ano tendency? Kakainin niya yung banana niya? Hindi, di ba? Dadali niya doon sa market. Farmer, banana, no market. Kakainin mo yung banana. Farmer, banana, market, bangin. What will you do? Kakainin mo pa rin yung banana mo. Ano gagawin? Hagis mo yung banana. Bayaran mo ako ng 150. Hay, balik mo yung pera dito. No, those are things I'm trying to tell you. If you don't have the right infrastructure to develop yourself, you lose. This is poverty. It's the deprivation of human capable essential opportunity choices needed for the well-being of individual household community. Poverty is decay, dissociation, disposition, decontextualization. This is the theory of Amartya Sen. 90s pa to. No, we're just carrying it over because it looks like it brings a lot of significance to many of us. His approach defined human development as the process of enlarging a person's functioning capabilities, the function range of things that a person could do in their life. Amartya Sen. So, Harvard Nobel Prize winner siya. Poverty is decay, dissociation, deposition, decontextualization. Ganito yan. Professor niyo ako. Then you're there. I'll tell you, okay, class mo, I'll give a lecture. I will bring a Manila paper and a pentel pen. Makinig kayo. Idodrawing ko ang buong poverty line. Ha? Kopyahin nyo. Naka-iPad kayo lahat. Sir, bago na po yung model. According to Google, ang definition ng ganito, sino ang nasa poverty? Ako. Because na-dissociate, I'm really out of context already. Diba? You have your new technologies, you didn't run after it, you didn't accept it. The teacher did not retool. That's why all your professors should always be abreast with what's the latest knowledge, philosophies. Kasi kung hindi, mauuna sila ang estudyante nila. Sila ang poverty. Diba? So, example, old house. Remember, between the engineering building before and this other, there was this row of old houses. Ayaw magbenta nun. Diba? It went high. Ang expensive na ng lote, ayaw pa rin nila. Now what happened? They got decontextualized. Because it's already Lasal here, Lasal sa harap, Lasal sa likod. Ang kanilang hangin ay DLSU air. Hindi mo ba napapansin yun? Kung ako sa inyo, dapat berde na lang kinakain ninyo. Berde araw-araw, berde sa gabi, berde. So, decontextualized na. They had to update themselves or else they die. Their poverty. So, this is why you are all given all these right conditions so that you will enlarge your functioning capabilities to function. You are given these rare lectures. Ilang lectures to? 10? Rare 10 lectures to enlarge your understanding and capabilities. You miss out on this, poverty kayo. You miss out on the 10, you're the poorest of the poor. Diba? Ganun lang yun eh. Kasi it's already there. Diba? So, next slide. Now, this is a big word called governance. This is a favorite word of the local government. Lahat sila gusto may trophy sa harap ng kanilang lobby. Seal of good local governance winner, good housekeeping winner. And all of them would like to have this big word, good governance. So, the more that they're able to get funding from here, utang from here, grant from here, naku, magkakagulo-gulo na yan. They feel that they're really good managers and good administrators. But actually, it's really self-discipline. What resources do you have? And how are you going to maximize these resources to catapult yourself to higher levels? In fact, pag nag-evaluate kami ng SCLG, good governance is necessary to understand how heritage is developed to address poverty. Ang unang tinatanong namin lagi, do you have any heritage or cultural program? You know, those kinds of programs don't even have to spend. They're free. They're actually in your people. That's heritage. So, out of your innate capabilities, how will you transform and maximize all of this to move to another program and another program, another program? Next slide. Heritage. This is our operational definition for heritage. It is anything valuable or meaningful from the past that gives identity and community to the present that will inspire the future generations. 2 parts. Anything valuable and meaningful. So, maybe sa kanya yung water bottle niya, maybe sa'yo yung lola mo, maybe sa'yo yung letter ng tatay mo. Iba-iba yan, no? Maybe at the level, this is a very personal family heritage. Or it could be the whole De La Salle. That's your heritage. It could be the whole Sinulog Festival for Cebu. That's iconic to the country. So, iba-iba ang levels ng heritage. Anything valuable, from your air, to your memories, to your traditions, to your objects, that's heritage. Now, please remember, when you talk of heritage, you attach yourself to that. That becomes your identity. Diba? Hindi nyo papansin, when you have a group of people, actually, experience ko dito dyan sa Lasal, pag freshman ka, saan school ka galing? Saan school ka galing? Dyan ako sa sa ganito. Hahanapin mo yung malapit sa school mo. Or, saang probinsya ka galing? It's a band. It's a tribal concept. No? You feel comfortable pag magkakasama kayo. So, that's a very settling and a very peaceful, it gives you identity and sense of community. You commune. Now, please remember, you can only do so much in your generation. Allow this heritage to continue, but you're not sure if the next generation will accept that. pwede lang buldusin yun. So for example, ayaw ng China ng mga lumang-lumang ganyan, pabubuldos yun ng China. No? They'll build new structures, new edifices. So you're not sure really if what you value now may be valued again by the next generation. But you can only do so much. Now, anything that you do at this point in time to protect and sustain the meaning, value, and significance, you know, heritage, whether it's object, non-object, or what, it provides you a meaning. If you protect that meaning, that's conservation. So for example, this is a table. Linisin ko yung table, ha? This is conservation. Then suddenly, Doc Shirley comes in, susulat siya sa table. Ay, okay ba yung table, Ma'am Shirley? Yes, it's very nice. Tama ang height. It has a use value. So, that is conservation. Ginagamit niya. And sabihin nila, Sir, baklasin na natin yung table. Sayang naman. So, sabihin mo, ay, buuin mo pa rin yung table. Lagyan mo na lang konting mga ganyan-ganyan. But the moment you say, benta natin ang table, hindi na siya meaningful, then that's not part of conservation. O yung table, convert na natin kung cabinet, hindi na siya table, umiba na yung form niya. No? That may not be conservation anymore. Next slide. This is your typologies of heritage. Dalawang slide lang importante dito, ha? Isa ito. Ito ang memorize ninyo. There are two big classifications for heritage. Natural, cultural. Nature is the source of all your life, of all your culture, of all your knowledge, natural heritage. That's why the base is huge. Naalala niyo yung COP21, climate change? Man can't exist without nature, but nature can exist without man. So, alam mo na, this is a three-sided pyramid. Now, culture, the moment man intervenes with culture, with nature, magiging culture siya. Bato, ginawang simbahan. Ang simbahan, culture, ang bato, nature. Wood, ginawang timber, ginawang truss sa bahay. Wood in itself is natural. That's a tree. Pag ginawa na siyang troso, ginawa na siyang poste, culture na yon. So, culture, it's either tangible or intangible. Tangible will be divided either as movable or immovable. No? So, tangible, immovable. Example, things that you cannot touch, that you can touch but you cannot move. Churches, cemeteries, plazas, buildings, bridges, mosques, lahat nandiyan na yan siya. Tangible, movable, these are the objects. It can be your memorabilia, your weaponry, your costume, your vestment, lahat nandiyan yan siya. Intangible, these are all the, practices, representations, knowledge, expressions, language, beliefs. Ito marami itong categories. Something you cannot touch. You go further down, itong classification na to, it's a three-sided pyramid. Extend it to nature, may ganyan din. Tangible, immovable. So, your valleys, your creeks, your seas, huge landscapes. Tangible, movable, you have your rocks, your stones, your minerals, your animals. Ano siya? Ito ang strange, intangible. No? Give me an example of an intangible natural heritage. Intangible sa nature. Intangible natural. Iisip sila. Sa sobrang lalim ng isip nila, nakatulog sila. I'll give you an example. Do you know this word, aliwalas? You know the word? Aliwalas. Okay, let's make a game. Okay, give me a word that you will associate to the word aliwalas. Any word, the way you understand aliwalas, any word. I don't expect a uniform answer. Okay, give me one word. English or Tagalog, whichever. Room. You don't know aliwalas? Okay. Paginhawa. Mukha. Malinis. Present. Pleasant. Very good. Clear. Mabango. Chill. Chill. Millennial. Panahon. Bright. Tulog. Dito, when you say aliwalas, dito sa 4, give me association word.
Presko.
Presko.
Malawak.
Malawak.
Maliwanag.
Maliwanag.
Maalwan.
Maalwan. You know that word, it has no exact English translation. Nakita niyo yung range, yung depth, yung expanse, just to capture, you mention space, room, you mention brightness, you mention cleanliness, you mention freshness, you mention... Actually, makakaiba yung words nyo. But it referred to one Tagalog word. Now, please remember, the moment you have a word for something, you are able to determine a reality. Totoo yon sa ating reality. There's such a thing as aliwalas. That's why we have such a word. But you transfer this to English, ano aliwalas sa English? Aliwals. Ha? Hindi ho natatranslate ng pagganon yun. So, you gave all of this approximation, but it's not exact. So, may ganyan. The strongest intangible natural heritage would come really from the indigenous communities. Marami silang conception at worldviews, it couldn't be captured exactly in Tagalog, more so in English. No? So that's why the Salle linguistics and all this, so you have this, intangible. Next slide. This is another diagram that maybe would help you to understand heritage. Siguro pag nag-exam ako, ito ang lalabas talaga. Yung dalawang diagram na to. So kung may professors dito, ito na ang inyong ibibigay sa inyong estudyante. This is the heritage dynamics. Earlier, what I gave you is that how do you classify heritage? How do you categorize it? Now, this one, how does it move from the past to the future? Heritage encompasses the 3 dimensions of time, past, present, future. Ang heritage ay hindi present. Heritage should be the 3 dimensions. Okay. In the past, when you say heritage, it's memory. This memory is carried over up to the present. That's your identity. That's who you are now. Now, this identity should be carried over to continue the next generation, to continue for ganito, but it has to be transmitted. How is it transmitted? Heritage could be a tradition. Pinapasa-pasa informally. It could be taught in school in De La Salle. So education is a transmission mechanism. It could be by law. Sabi sa Republic Act ni Digong, kailangan lahat kayo magdasal ng 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 12 p.m., AA, lahat. It can be a law. Kaya napapasa-pasa kasi naka-codify, naka-legislate, pinopromulgate. No? So, it can be even a tourism promotion. So, there's a transmission mechanism. Saan ka dito? You're here. When you look back to a positive memory, nostalgia, you long for it. Every December, you long for your family reunion. Kakain ka na naman ng masarap na paella ng lola mo. You have this beautiful positive longing for that particular food. Now, that memory is very meaningful. In the present, patay na si lola, but remember, it has to be reenacted. Kasi tradisyon yun eh. Every December, we have to eat our paella. Every December, we have to go to this mass. Every December, we have to hear the caroling. Lahat yon. It's complete. Paella. You will interpret a meaningful paella. Patay na si lola. Who will do the interpretation? Maybe one of your kapatid. Diba? Lulutuin yan. Will your sister be able to exact the paella? Impossible yon. For one thing, the context is different. Maybe the recado is different. Maybe the slicing is different. Please remember, when you do a reenactment, a reinterpretation. It's performative. And performative expressions, you cannot apply authenticity to performative interpretations. So for example, itong paelyang to, authentic ito. Original ito sa pamilya namin to. Si lola mo ba nagluto niyan? Hindi. Si lola namin patay na eh. Ang authentic sa original. No? So the moment it gets to another level of interpretive transmission, you cannot apply the word authentic anymore. Because people will always do their own interpretation. No? So, example, that's a paella. And if you want it to be living, so continuous ang tradition nyo. If you have an old house, you try to maintain the house. You interpret the house. Diyan pa rin kayo nakatira sa old house nyo. If you'd like to maintain the house, its original use, original form, you preserve it. The moment you change something in the house, original object, tinanggal, binalik, preservation. Restoration. Then, something happened to the house, original, nadurog, binalik, something new, maybe not the same wood, just the approximate wood, that's reconstruction. Something happened to the house, tinanggal lahat ng, o pinalitan ng bagong materials, but it's still the house, it's still your residence, that's redevelopment. You have your original house, but the CR is just not functioning anymore. Sobrang luma na, sir. Ang doon pa sa taas, fina-flash. Parang nahuhulugan kami ng tubig lagi. No? And we have to break the water. We have to change the washroom. It has to be more comfortable. That's innovation. Ina-update nyo na. No? So, for all the houses, just to be meaningful to the community, ito ang mga approaches ninyo. If you maintain and sustain the whole city, you will be doing conservation or historic urban landscape. Okay? Now, for this part, ito ka. You look back to something negative. Ayaw mong alalahanin. No? It's a heritage of shame. So this one is amnesia. It's meaningless. It's obsolete. It's decontextualized. So how do you kill a building? How do you destroy a building? It can be negligence, it can be defacement, deformation, dysfunction, decontextualization, demolition. Now, if you have all of this, obviously that whole structure will be extinct. Wala na yan. It will not be carried over after the next generation. That's for one house. If you have the whole city, if you would like to kill the whole city, that's urbicide. Urban suicide. So for example, Manila, araw-araw nila may basura dyan, one kanto. The next day, the other kanto may basurahan na. Eventually, the whole city is basurahan. You're killing the whole city. No, that's urbicide. No. Now, all of this, if you would like to kill all this good memory, ang tawag namin dyan is memory-side. No? So you kill the whole memory, it's memory-side. So all your heritages, isa-isa ini-erase nyo. Next slide. Now, basically, for objects and places, for you to conserve it, what's your basis? Identify first, why is that object important? You do not conserve something that is not meaningful. Kung hindi meaningful, tapon mo na. Di ba? But if it's meaningful, I'll try to protect it. Well and good. So, I'll try to protect it. What's the significance of the object? And how will I make a conservation plan out of it? Next slide. So, if that's one house, you have many houses here in Malate. It's important where LaSalle is. You map out your whole district. What are the important structures, traditions, expressions inside that make Malate outstanding or significant? Youth heritage mapping. No? So, what's important is make sure you identify these resources of this community outstanding compared to the other community. So, for example, what's so outstanding about this area? Well, LaSalle is here, you have Rizal Memorial here, so other places wouldn't have that. No? Next slide. There are certain forms. Meron kayong fina-follow na mga templates to document your places. This is one for landscape. Maybe you have here a creek, maybe you have the old trees here, maybe you have the old landmarks and natural heritage. Next slide. So this is the one that we use for vegan. These are two rivers that cordon and skirt the whole city. Next slide. This is for plants and animals. Next slide. And this is an indigenous fish we call the ipon. No? Next slide. This is for building. So when we do the buildings template, it's very architectural. So it would help you really understand what are some of the threats related to the building. Next slide. So this is also from vegan. Next slide. This is for your traditions. So when you do intangible heritage, you document the festivals, you document the traditions, you document all of these other expressions. Next slide. So this is how we documented the bell weaving. Yan siya. Step by step. Even the vocabulary, you have to document. Next slide. These are for objects. There are some outstanding objects in your vicinity that's iconic to the place. No? Next slide. And this is how we'll document it. It's very museum in approach. Next slide. When you do your cultural mapping, it's really threshing out all of this so that you will be able to define what policies are we coming up and what will be the programs that we will do to protect it. No? So create your awareness up to the point that you'll be able to use all this data. Awareness, appreciation, protection, utilization. Those are the phrases. You cannot utilize something that you do not protect. You cannot protect something that you do not appreciate, and you cannot appreciate something that you are not aware of. No? So, ganun lang yon. You do not do a program that you don't even understand ano bang elements ng program. You do not do a program unless you know your resources. Next slide. So, look at some ordinances of the different cities. All of them already have been on stage 3. But few of them were able to do cultural mapping. Ano pinoprotektahan nyo dyan? Diba? So you'll realize that sometimes they move to step 3, wala pa silang step 1. Meron na step 1, hindi maka-move on to step 2. Meron step 4, walang step 3. No? This is the most logical framework that you move from one phase to. It's a process. No? Next slide. So ito yung lalabas sa exam nyo. Discuss the Heritage Conservation and Sustainable Development Framework. Ang nasa taas, yun ang economics. That's the development framework. What is the approach of heritage? This is the lower one. Pag kinumbine mo ang heritage and development, ito yung mutation. This is the mestizo framework. No? So you develop this. Where do you figure yourselves? If you are into literature, the arts, economics, dito kayo papasok. Pag nagmamapping kayo, ano mga literary works ang nandyan? What are the sciences? What are the plants and animals? Lahat ng disciplines dito papasok kasi minamap out kayo. Now, how will you become meaningful to the community? How will you be able to use all that knowledge to community development? Dapat maabot nyo yan. Kasi kung ang thesis nyo ay ibubookbind nyo at itatago lang sa library dito sa likod, iuwi nyo na yung thesis nyo. Sayang naman yung effort nyo. Do something that is really palatable and grounded, that the community will eventually understand, nakatulong ka naman sa amin. So, these are things that you have to gradually grapple with, no? Maybe you're still young, but at the end of the day, now it's a good time for you to understand, nga naman, what will I do? No? Next slide. Next. So, this is another diagram. When you discover something old or heritage, that's sedimented heritage. Maalikabok pa yan. And then, you try to read that. How will you use it? You appropriate it. The moment you appropriate it, you try to reinvent it to a more contemporary context. After many years, makikita na naman yung mga apo nyo, sedimented heritage na naman yun. No? So, it's not exact. The use of that object may not be exact as how it was originally thought of. Iikot yan. It will always be this cycle. Next slide. May time pa. O kaya pa. Case studies. When you do heritage mapping, you will not know exactly anong lalabas na project. You will be able to gather volumes and volumes of data. But what happens? Next slide. History. Next. We did the mapping for San Nicolas, Ilocos Norte. Their tradition is damili. They do this little banga. You know, I asked them, can you give examples of the banga from your backyard? Naku, may nagdala ng elepante. Saan nagaling yung elepante? Ba't ang ganda? So luma na po, ito nakakalat sa garden namin. Little did we know, the original capital of Ilocos Norte, which was Sarat, that's a very powerful site, full of all these bricks and brick tradition. The old capital is under this town. So nag-archaeological sila, they came up with all these archaeological facts and artifacts. Nag-change ang historical narrative nila. Next slide. We also have Calatagan, Batangas. That's really the estate of the Zobels. Rick, pakicheck mo nga, puro naman dito tubuhan. But there was one kulto. Nagtayo daw sila ng simbahan before the Spaniards arrived. Talaga? Nauna pa kayo kay Magellan? Paano ka magtatayo ng simbahan na nauna sa mga Katolik? Unbelievable claim. So we went up, we saw their church. Their church was actually an old fortification. It was an old fort where when the ships of the galleon turned from Mindoro down to Cavite, the fireworks would be from here, from this fort, to signal to Manila, paparating na ang galleon. Magfi-fiesta na. So we were able to locate this galleon fortification. Next slide. We have Bataan Province. They've been celebrating a particular day, April 9. Lagi na lang fall of Bataan, fall of Bataan, fall. Nagsi-celebrate pero fall. Palitan nyo nga yan. They realized they have another date. So they had to totally change and do a new legislation to change their celebration of the foundation. Next slide. Tourism. Next. So, Butuan. This is the site of the Balanghay boats. They did the mapping. 400 teachers. They were able to document the tradition of the Balanghay. And they came up with a new tourism programming and campaign. Next slide. Quezon City. Ang hirap i-mapping ng Quezon City. 141 barangays. So this was the basis for coming up with the Quezon City Museum. And they also realized in Kamuning, there's only one tree left na Kamuning. Siya yun. Pag nabundol yan ng jeep, wala na Kamuning tree sa Kamuning. So, ang laking problema ni Herbert Bautista, how do we protect that tree? Diba? Next slide. You also have Ilocos Norte. Ilocos Norte has 23 towns. And with that, you have to map out all the towns. This is the bridge, you have the bridge in Naradji, this is the Tabacalera. They came up with the Ilocos Norte guidebook. This was an award-winning guidebook for tourism that won the best guidebook in 2004. Next slide. Risk mitigation. Next. Angeles. You know, Angeles is famous for their sisig. They also have the red light district. Diba? Note, when you do mapping, you will also map out the negative, the issues, the ills of society. Itong red light district is right beside the cemetery. When we mapped out the cemetery, the dead, 50% of the ones buried here are zero age. Lahat inabort. Abortion site ito because it's right beside. And all the surnames of the ones aborted are not Kapampangan surnames. They came from Samar, they came from Zamboanga, they came from Cebu. Yan ang mapping. Immediately, the city had to intervene. They had to do some, they have to exorcise the whole place. Next slide. This is Giwan Eastern Samar. They did the mapping in 2012. By 2013, Yolanda came. Now wash out ang buong town. This was the beautiful church before. Dumating si Yolanda, hinate. Hindi. You know, the only thing that they salvaged were their mapping volumes. They are now rebuilding the city based on the mapping. Next slide. This is Tugaya. Tugaya is 20 minutes away from Marawi. We mapped out all the craftsmen, all the crafts. You don't see any woman, craftswoman here. Bawal. They are hidden. It's like going to Pakistan in the 1950s. Lahat yan nakaburka. So, when they realize that they're getting information and they think they'll be able to get money, nagkaroon ng massacre. Pinatay ang mayor dito. No, because of the mapping. They would like to get hold of the information. Next slide. Community development, next slide. This is the Puerto Princesa Underground River. Because of the heavy influx of investment, the whole fabric of the community is changing. They have to protect the traditional houses of Tatagbanwa. So we have to guide them. What is the modern interpretation of a Tagbanwa house? So ito yung interpretation niya. Next slide. We also had to do interpretation for the traditional Ifugao houses. This is the traditional house. This is the modern house that they want. Let's have a compromise. Ito ang compromise structures. No? Next slide. You have, this is the World Heritage City of Vigan, one of the most successful ones. Next slide. What did they do? Massive ang mapping dito. It's a World Heritage City. They came up with coloring books, activity books, training programs for roof tiling, even how to do your bagnet. They have a whole museum of doll house. The whole Crisologo Street has been converted into a doll house. They have a river tour, they have a museum, everything that you can imagine out of the utilization. Next slide. So they came up with this homeowner's manual. How do you restore your houses even on your own? And recently, we published, next slide, the Vegan Heritage Charter. How do you connect the built to the intangible, intangible to the nature, nature to ano? Because sometimes it's so disjointed, it has to be holistic. No? Next slide. National Convergence Projects. When you do this to a town, make sure everybody, the whole country, understands how this is interrelated. For the Department of Tourism, we did the Filipino brand of service. Each region will have their particular way of greeting their guests or sending off their guests. So it has to be culture-based. Next slide. You also have for the CBCP, ito lagi problema sa mga simbahan, di ba? Yung, naalala nyo yung simbahan na ginawang Goldilocks? So, we always have to apprise them, huwag nyo naman gawing cake house yung simbahan. Huwag nyo naman gawing parang airport yung simbahan. So, we have to temper all through the bishops. Next slide. We also have, we did this project with De La Salle, with your engineering office. So, the World Bank provided a fund for us to evaluate when will the buildings fall down. Pag may dumating na earthquake, at what tipping point will it collapse? Pag dumating ang typhoon, at what tipping point will it collapse? So all of these multi-hazards, you compute that. So we did this with UCL, University College of London. No? Next slide. You have to define what is authenticity in Asia, even conservation plans in Asia. So we help ICROM do this for the whole of Asia. Even the competency of heritage workers. When are you allowed to take on the title heritage professional? What are your minimum skills? What are your minimum experiences, knowledge, values for you to become a heritage professional? Next slide. So we've done a lot of mapping, no, for the past 20 years. And you realize, ilan ito? 8, 9, 12, 20, 36, 37. That's 20 years. There are 1,650 towns and cities in the whole country. I will never be able to cover this in my lifetime. Diba? You want to transform the whole country? That's just, those who are interested will work for it. These were the interested provinces and towns. You cannot impose this to a town that's not ready. You make sure that they're ready. No? Even for this one, you make sure that they're ready. If they're interested, well, why not? If they're not, it's okay. Next slide. So, this is a nice adage. Places are sensed, senses are placed. And as places make sense, senses make place. Diba? Mahirap bang intindihin yan? Hindi. The moment you're born, your earliest memory at 4 or 5 years old, sigurado ko, you will be able to place ano yung amoy ng experience na yon, ano yung feel ng dampi, ng hangin na yon, ano yung exact configuration ng experience na yon. Places are sensed. All your faculties are working. Senses are placed. Because of that, alam mo na, the moment I sense na durian ito, Davao yan. 'Di ba? Pag nakita ko, naamoy ko yung danggit, nandun na ako sa Cebu. No? So, pag nakikita ko ang batchoy, alam ko na kung saan yan. No? Pag naririnig ko ang pitik ng mga sisig, alam ko na nasa Pampanga na ako. Places make sense. Because of all your sensing, nagkakaroon ng meaning ang place. It becomes so meaningful. There will be stories, there will be narratives coming out of it. And every time, because of that narrative, your senses are always attached to place. It's place-making, it's memory-making, it's sense-making. Next slide. So, here, remember the model earlier? Tension, heritage, development. But the cases prove that when you do development, focus on heritage. Next slide. Next. Put heritage in the middle. Next slide. Ito yung magiging model ninyo. This is a heritage-driven development. Heritage is not versus development. Heritage is not even in development. All the new things that happened to all those towns were because of heritage. The first thing that moved was heritage. Sumunod na lang yung iba. So that's why this is a heritage-driven development concept. Next slide. This tension will now be your attention. It's locus, focus, focus, locus. Hindi siya hocus-pocus. Binola-bola lang tayo ni Sir, hino-hocus-pocus niya yan. Locus, focus, focus. You define first your place. No? The moment you define your place, you'll be able to identify exactly with this set of boundaries what is important within that boundary. When you do World Heritage nomination, ang unang nire-request, maps. Ano pinag-uusapan natin lugar? What are your boundaries? Saka mo lang ipoprove na outstanding siya. It's World Heritage worthy. Next slide. Culture is everything ennobling and excellent, creative by the people. Pamana, karangal, kagalingan. What is this in English? Next slide. It's nobleness and excellence. Every time you do a project, if it's heritage-based, culture-based, you are celebrating your nobleness and excellence. The moment you lose this nobleness and excellence, you do not use your culture, you demean your whole identity, and you erase your whole memory. Next slide. You know, before you do something, any project, memory is very important. Memory, next slide, is the soil next of our imagination. How can you imagine something when you don't have memory? Paano ka mag-i-imagine kung meron kang amnesia? Diba? Logic yun eh. Wala kang base. So it's important to strengthen this history, memory, heritage. Then you will have a very meaningful development program. Next slide. So every time people ask you, heritage, makain ba yan? I think sasagot nyo na yan. Kaya lang kailangan mo lang ng mga 2-hour lecture bago ma-explain sa kanila. Bahala na kayo. Papatayin na kayo nila. Ang taba naman ng lecture na yan. No. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for staying put. I hope you learned a little something. No. Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.